Welcome into the Autzen Audibles podcast, post-game edition. Matt Preem, Erik Scopel, John Evans here on the show from Husky Stadium. We're actually recording inside Oregon's press box, or not press box, their coach's booth here. No extra notes here. They cleaned up nicely. But Oregon walks away 26-14 with a win at Husky Stadium, improves to 11-1 on the season. I think they were in if they had lost it being relatively close, but this guarantees their spot into the college football playoff. All that's left to know now is what their seeding is. Being as they're sixth in the country, probably a good chance they're not going to really move anywhere below that. Could maybe move up to 5 or 4, maybe depending upon what happens the next week or so and results. But tonight, here this afternoon at Husky Stadium, a very impressive road win, 26-14, in a game in which they kind of dominated. At the same time, this score should have been probably a wider margin of victory than what it was. But I think the theme of the day probably for me is clutch. Oregon came up clutch every time they needed to come up clutch, whether it was a interception by Jaden Kennedy down in the end zone, whether it was the game-sealing interception by Dylan Thineman, whether it was in the Malik Benson 64-yard touchdown catch or whatever it was from Dante Moore, or Atticus Sappington's 51-yard field goal. I mean, his 4 field goals is the difference in this game. It's 14-14, and then you throw in Sappington's 4 kicks. That's the 12-point difference. Oregon came up clutch every time it was needed, and I think it kind of hammered home what we all kind of thought. They were the better team. If they played like it, they would walk away with the victory.
The cool thing is just the players that you were running through there, Matt, that were kind of the heroes. Like so many of them, this is their first big moment in this rivalry. I know Atticus was here last year, played this game last year, but Dante was on the team and didn't play. Malik Benson was at Florida State. Dylan Thineman was at Purdue. Like all these guys who had these massive moments. Jaden Kennedy, who had the interception, like was at Ole Miss. Like all these guys who had these moments. This was like the introduction to this rivalry. Like Matt and I were just down there talking to Malik, and he was saying, like, I had to be educated by Bryce on what this rivalry meant, what this whole thing was about. And to see them all come out and make plays. I mean, it's not like if you haven't played in a certain type of game, you're not going to have any success in it. But it was just cool to see all these guys kind of embrace this opportunity and then come out and put it together. And to where Matt started, you don't have to sweat now. There's no sweat. Oregon is in the college football playoff. You can exhale. They're going to host a game. I mean, Dan, who would be the last person to overstate a circumstance, was already talking about what Autzen is going to be like when Oregon plays there, hosting a game sometime next month. We will have to wait until, what is it, the 14th or something of December until we know the details after the conference championship games. No, the 7th, sorry. That's a week from now, sorry. The calendar's starting to bleed together. But it's going to take us a bit before we know the matchups, but we know Oregon is in, and they earned it. And going 11-1 this season with all the adversity, all the injuries they faced, and you should be really proud of what this football team was able to achieve. I know there was moments in this game that were less than satisfactory. Washington has that 4th and 8 touchdown pass, the second one from Williams to Boston, and it kind of feels like here comes the door opening again. But then that Malik Benson score, I can't say enough great things. We kind of were anointing him the MVP of the season for the offense last week. You have a heck of a lot more ammunition even now after this one.
Yeah, his celebration, throwing up the W and breaking it over his knees already. I've seen that going on.
I haven't seen this yet. I'm really excited to find it.
Yeah,
you can tell they've already educated these guys on the history of this rivalry, what it means. That felt a little personal to Malik Benson. You could see Alex Harkey, a guy who wasn't here last year, getting chippy with Ephesians Frysock down on the sideline. You could just see that these guys all came out here ready to go from the jump. They were not going to back down to this Washington team. Not that they ever were, but they were ready to get after them and get physical from the jump. And like you said, Dante Moore, a great game. And Malik Benson really continues to come up clutch for this team. That 64-yard touchdown. I was talking to you after you said that as soon as you saw him catch that one, he was gone. And he just has those, like we were saying last week on that punt return, he just has that speed that can burn these guys' angles.
Where does the Malik Benson, I guess I'm watching it now, breaking the W over the knee, the 64-yard catch on 3rd and 10 when it was a 5-point game, all the momentum. Where do we feel like this is going to be placed in probably like the more recent lore of this, because you're right, Erik. Like, it's gonna go down as one of the more signature plays. He's gonna have that highlight played on Autzen next year when Washington comes to this, or it comes to Autzen, and it's gonna go down as one of the bigger plays in a while. And it just feels like this story keeps getting better and better. And if you're not aware of like the path that he took to get to Oregon, it's pretty crazy. JUCO guy, was a 5-star recruit, signed with Alabama. Expectations were through the roof. Didn't live up to them. Some of it him, some of it those around him. Transferred to Florida State, where they did not have a quarterback at all. And Florida State fans were essentially happy he left. He had to apply to get a JUCO year of eligibility back to become eligible this season. He gets it. Doesn't start off really all the hottest. And I mean, you mentioned it when he scored to me. The first thing you said was, how many times has Malik Benson saved this season? And I think he's going to go – he has reached probably the point – it's very difficult to do a one-and-one type year where you only get 1 year with this fan base, and he's going to leave with an imprint on the program, on the fan base. Fans are going to remember him for a long time, but not to the extent of Vernon Adams, but similar kind of line where Vernon was here for a year and he is loved by Duck fans. And I think Malik Benson, especially as the story keeps getting better and better, because his year keeps getting better and better, he's going to reach that point where fans are going to remember him for a really long time, even though he was only able to spend 1 year at Oregon.
I'm trying to answer your original question about, like, in recent plays within this rivalry, where does it stack up? Like, I think of the CJ Verdell touchdown to end Washington's 2-year run in 2018 to put that one on ice in overtime. 2021, Travis Dye up here had a touchdown late to kind of separate, but the stakes are different in this game.
This place was rocking.
Oh, yeah.
When they scored on that 4th down and it was 3rd and 10, and then when he scored that touchdown, it went dead silent and it never recovered.
Well, and because this is played as the rivalry game in place of Oregon State, which had always been the conclusion of the regular season, a moment like this has more significance than it did. I think when Oregon beat Washington in 2018, that was like a September game or an October game. It was early in the season. There's still a lot of season to be played. The 2021 Travis Dye, I can't remember if there was another moment in that game. These all blur together, honestly, at this point. But that was also not like the final game to punch a ticket into college football playoff. Like, and there's a ton of other heroes in this game. Matt mentioned a bunch of them. John, I'm thrilled he brought up kind of Dante and the significance of that moment. But to encapsulate a season here last week, and it's almost as simple as, like, if he doesn't make that play, the door swings wide open that Washington ends up taking this one and maybe playing spoiler, and who knows, there's a whole sweat coming into the next kind of 7 or 8 days. Like, this is a huge moment in Oregon football history, and he's going to be remembered, as Matt said, very differently than a lot of these one-and-done transfers because of it.
Yeah, even in a game where Washington, they already have a couple of losses on the season, not really playing for anything super significant, like you said, playing the spoiler role. And for all 70,000 people in this stadium, they wanted to be that spoiler today.
Boy,
for
did
the Ducks. They wanted to make sure Oregon, it's just that college football rivalry hatred that you don't want to see your rival succeed. And Oregon, in a situation where they really kind of have to have it on that 3rd and 9 to drop back and throw it like that, really impressive from them, when it just feels like all the momentum is kind of swinging that way towards Washington in that 4th quarter.
I want to ask you, John, because we should know John's wearing his KWA shirt. He was on the call for the University of Oregon radio station. You were above us. What was your vantage point on that sequence? And going into that play, what was kind of running through your brain? Because I was going, if they don't get this, boy, does Washington have so much momentum, down 5 points, gets the ball back with 7 or 8 minutes to go. Like, this could really kind of snowball in a different direction. Yeah,
I was talking with my broadcast partner, Saul Galvan, on that one, and we were both 3rd and 9. That was not the situation Oregon wanted to be in, because they found themselves in those situations throughout this game, because the run game on those early downs, Noah Whittington, Jordan Davison, they really couldn't find that rhythm to set Dante up with these easy conversions like they have throughout the season. And so a lot of it fell on Dante Moore's shoulders, and for him to drop back, they ran a sail concept to the left side of the field, trying to get a corner out to Jamari Johnson, and he gets back to his backside dig on the far side from Malik Benson, that's an NFL throw. He's reading left to right, all 5 routes, and gets to his dig. And then obviously Benson making a huge play. But Dante Moore throughout this game was making huge plays when he really had to, because he didn't have the help from him from the run game.
Yeah, run game, 42 carries. That's a lot. That's typically you look at that and say they must have dominated.
You tell me 42 carries on like 250 yards. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
They must have dominated the game. They iced it out with the run game. And 42 carries, 106 total yards. Running backs didn't find the end zone. The only one to score a touchdown was Dante Moore on the keeper. His first score of the year on the ground.
First career rushing touchdown.
First career. Wow.
Having at UCLA either, right?
So the run game really bottled up. You have to tip your cap to Washington's front seven. This was the best rushing attack in the country, and it's by far its worst performance of the year, statistically, at least. And I think this just goes into another one of those, you have a filing cabinet, log it in there, where Oregon has shown they can win football games multiple ways. This is one in which they win where their offense is effective but stalled out multiple times. Atticus Sappington 4 for 4 on his kicks, one being a career-high 51-yarder, being his last one. And then they also did it where their run game was pretty non-existent. It wasn't as nearly effective as it had been all year long. And yet Dante Moore, 286, 20 of 29, 69% completion percentage. He had the 1 touchdown pass. He didn't throw an interception. He was off a little bit early on, but once late in the first quarter, early second quarter, he figured things out. He settled in. His inaccuracy issues went away, and he was really, really good. And you look at the receiving core, and they stepped up in a really big way.
Yeah, I mean, you think about just to kind of illustrate the run game struggles, when they get the turnover on downs down here, right about the 25-yard line. Matt and I were, by the way, in the elevator getting down to the field, so we missed a bit of that sequence. But we ended up catching basically the entirety of that Oregon drive. Like, they tried to put this thing away on the ground, couldn't get it done.
Yep.
No, Whittington for this game really just didn't have a big day. What was it, 17 for 47?
His long was 17, which came on a 4th down play, and that's it.
And I'm just to kind of your point here of like having to find other ways to win here, against Indiana, 2.7 yards per carry. The 5 games after that, 11.2 yards against Rutgers, 4.5 against Wisconsin, 7.3 against Iowa, 6 against Minnesota, and then 4.4 last week against USC. And then today, 2.5. This was the toughest day all season on the ground. And it had become such a staple, such a dependable thing. We talked about coming in. We were skeptical Washington could really take this part away. Their defense gets it done. Their defense does what it needs to. That was, I guarantee you, like number one on this defensive staff's game plan was like eliminate the Oregon ground game or diminish it. And they succeeded. And yet Oregon ends up putting up enough points here to win 2 scores. That says a lot about what the defense was able to get done. And then obviously what Dante was able to get done here with 3 straight weeks where he's just been on a heater coming off those 2 ugly weather games with Iowa and Wisconsin.
I think you really got to credit the Washington defense here as well. Their defensive tackles, the interior of their defensive line and their edges as well played a great game and just shut down where Oregon was wanting to go. They got 4 guys they like to rotate on the inside. Uyunglele, one of them. Bryce Butler had a bunch of really good plays today. And they were, gapping Oregon's runs and not letting them go anywhere. So I think you really got to give credit to that defense. I think this is something like I kind of was overlooked in coming into this game, how good Washington's defense has been all season. This is the most points that anybody scored on the Huskies all year, 26. They scored Illinois hit 25 on them, and then the other 2 highest was 24 for Michigan and Ohio State. So they have not been even, against a team like Ohio State with the horses they have on the outside at receiver. They knew that Washington's defense was good, and they played that game conservatively. So Washington's defense is really good for Oregon to, I think, be able to move the ball as consistently as they did throughout this one. And then, again, Dante Moore, just a phenomenal game today.
Explosive plays. This is the big difference. They basically had the same amount. Washington had 6. Oregon had 7. The difference being in Oregon's 7 explosive plays, they had 228 total yards, and that's
all through the air, by the way.
Yeah, they have 1 on the ground. 228 of their 392 yards came on 7 plays.
Wow.
And Washington's big play perspective, they had a total of 283 total yards, and they had 6 explosives, and they had just 111 yards on those 6 explosives. Oregon was almost 100, was over 100 yards more,
doubled them up
on when they were explosive. It really mattered. And kind of maybe shifting gears to Oregon's defense, this was very much John probably won't know this reference, but for you and I, Nick Aliotti defense, bend but don't break.
Mm-hmm.
They always maybe give up a yard, a big play or two on each possession, but they always bowed up when it was needed. And they turned touchdown drives into field goals. They turned field goals into no points, and they had a couple turnovers. And that's kind of what this game was for the Oregon defense. Washington had two possessions where they drove the length of the field and they scored touchdowns. Everything else was 3-and-outs, turnovers, or a punt after 4 or 5 offensive plays. And a lot of their first downs came from those 2 drives or Oregon penalties. This defense was really, really good. Damon Williams, 129 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 50% completion percentage. Jonah Coleman ends his career at Washington against the Ducks with 20 total carries for 25 career rushing yards
in the 2 games.
In the 2 games,
okay,
against Oregon. And I mean, I know he was hurt a little bit tonight, and he played in this game. And Adam Muhammad for UW was successful, 105 yards on the ground. Last time Oregon's given up a 100-yard rush has probably been a while. But bottling up Jonah Coleman, really, really good.
Who was the last 100-yard rusher Oregon's given up? Am I missing something here? Have they given up one all year?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
We hadn't actually talked that out in the game, but just
if I had to guess based on the trajectory of where this normally goes when we ask when's the last
probably
time,
Ohio State.
Probably the Ohio State game.
Did Judkins or Henderson have big enough
Henderson
on
had
there?
like
I don't
80
know.
on one.
And I apologize for us not being prepared with that stat, but to put context, and we're recording this about an hour and a half after the game ended. We just literally finished doing the Dan Laming and all the player interviews, so we haven't really debriefed, so we're really kind of coming off the cuff here.
They did not have a 100-yard game in the Rose Bowl.
Now you're going to have to go really down there. I mean, I think you said it exactly right. You look at the drive chart. It was 2 sustained drives that end in Denzel Boston touchdown passes from Damon Williams, and the rest of it was really tough sledding. And Damon, 15 for 30. It took a lot for him to get there. And even on that first touchdown, I'm amazed he got that off for a score.
Oh, yeah. It was unbelievable throw.
Mixon is on him, like almost immediately, unblocked, reaches him. And yet he has the wherewithal to find Boston for the touchdown with 10 seconds to play in the first half. And that was the only sequence the entire first half where the Oregon defense just didn't come to play. Like sacks on their first 2 drives lead to 3-and-outs. They get the turnover on what was a pretty poor throw from DeMond, from Kennedy. That leads to the Oregon first half touchdown drive. I mean, that's the other part in this game is you look at it and you go, Oregon wins 26-14, and yet they have 2 touchdowns in this game. And it becomes the Atticus Sappington show here with field goals of 46, 32, 37, and 51. 51 being a career high. And that one was good. That one was You had a good question. You can kind of share the answer about what do you do when you're the kicker on that end of it and the ball is in the air for 4 or 5 seconds?
It was up there for a long time. Like, you're right, 5 seconds or so.
Felt like it.
Yeah, it's hanging.
He gave some really good insight just into everything kicking. The optical illusion part of why he's so far back on kicks when he comes off the field. And then he kind of
approaches it because it makes the goalpost look bigger. I never heard that. That's interesting.
But to answer your question, he basically said, I just stood there and kind of watched it. And then once it hit a certain height, I think is what he said, then he realized, it's pushing through. And he watched across and he was pretty fired up. I mean, obviously, he turned to the Washington sideline and did some kind of like, hoop and holler. And he turned his back or where his back was to the UW student section and did some hooping and hollering. And then by that time, when he looked at the Oregon sideline, his teammates had started to mob him a little bit. But that was a cool scene. And that was, I can't remember who asked the question, but this is a program and this is a fan base that you watch other games and you see field goal kickers make them from 50 or from 45. And you just always ask yourself, why can't Oregon have that? Why? What are like the struggles that Oregon has had, especially in this game?
In this series in the stadium in 2023, 2 years ago, we remember?
Talk about a kicker having a game today when that was what took this team down last time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exercise demons.
Demons. And now you have that kicker. And that's going to 100% influence Dan Lanning's decisions on to go for it or not to go for it, rely on your defense. When you know you can throw out a guy in a high pressure situation, he's already done it before, but now he's extended it out with career high 51-yarder. That changes decisions, and you walk away feeling like almost automatic points.
Did we say enough on the Oregon defense? I don't think we did.
No, I as like the other one that stood out to me too was the Kennedy interception early in that one.
Yeah.
He baited it perfectly.
Exactly, and Washington got that ball. That was Oregon was backed up. Dante had gotten sacked on that corner blitz. Dalen Austin picks up a penalty on the punt. First time this game starts really getting chippy. He starts talking to the Huskies, and all of a sudden Washington's starting their drive on about the 40-yard line and has a chance to really get into this thing. And Kennedy making a phenomenal play there to pick that one off early, I think really kind of set the momentum. He's a guy that we've kind of talked about it last week because he had the big game covering Makai Lemon in the slot in that UCLA matchup, but he's been such a huge part of this defense all season. His ability to he gets that when he's playing as a high free safety because they can put Feeneman in the middle, and they did that all game. They were running 3 safeties almost the entire game out there with Kennedy up over the top because it could really shut down that explosiveness that Williams can hit on the scramble drills. If you have the top locked down, then he can't do that. So they wanted to do those 3 safety looks and play light boxes the entire game, and they did it really successfully. Muhammad was able to gash them to that left side behind because they got their right tackle back to left guard, his regular position. Carver Willis is their best run blocker over on that side. They were hitting the stretch zones out to the left with Muhammad really well. But other than that, that was the only thing that was working for them on offense because Oregon essentially baited them into it by playing those light boxes, playing Kennedy and Feeneman over the top, and making sure that Williams wasn't going to hit any of those chunk plays. And that's exactly what they did. You're saying with the 211 yards or whatever it was for Oregon on their big plays, Washington wasn't having those. He had one where he scrambled out and tried to hit, I think it was, I'm now forgetting the name of their slot receiver because it's a hyphenated one.
Are you talking about Raiden Vines Bright?
Yes, Vines Bright.
Was that on the Kennedy blitz?
Yeah,
I was going to bring that play up too on that. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Kennedy breaking that one up downfield. Like that's the plaster ability that they talked about all week, being able to plaster when Grant Williams is out on those scramble drills. That was that right there. And Kennedy being so good at living that verticality from the slot. That's exactly what he did to Lemon last week and continue to hear today.
Damon Williams made some incredible plays.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a nuisance to defend. Oregon, I felt like I'll be curious on the PFF pressures numbers in this game because I felt like they had hands on him. He was sacked 4 times. It felt like they had hands on him another 10 times.
Yeah.
And he was able to evade pressure, or he was able to get the ball just out in time. Other than pass rush, this might have been their most impactful day in totality. And we kind of pointed to this coming in, right? I think there was it 5 sacks?
It was 4.5. That was the problem.
And they got 4, so it just went under. But we were saying like maybe this was the week because I think both Ohio State and Wisconsin had a lot of success with sacks. I think they both got over that number. And even Michigan did a good job of corralling DeMont. Some of the games they lost, Williams had been impacted as a passer. Oregon absolutely got that done today. But he's just a guy who's going to be a thorn on your side. And it's going to be 2 more years of this. Every year having to go against this quarterback who he has those Kyler Murray moments. I've said that all year, just watching them play, of just those moments where you think you've got them bottled up, and they're similar in stature, which is why the comparison feels apt. But he's just got this ability to make annoying things happen. I say annoying from the Oregon perspective of like, you think you've got the right coverage, you think you have the right pressure on him, and you've got guys in his face, and yet he's able to get out of it. He's able to make plays, and there were certainly a lot of those tonight were just tip of the cap plays, but that was basically the only time the pass game had success. Like that was a heck of a game. This might be Tosh Lupoy. I think it will be Tosh Lupoy's final game in the regular season. We don't know what he'll do. I think he's going to be announced as Cal's head football coach in the next 48 hours. I think that's happening. This was a really impressive performance from Tosh, and the defense felt like in structure did a really, really good job. And of course, you have to tip the cap to Damon for making some of the things happen too.
Yeah, he does those special things on the scramble drills and stuff, but at the same time, it is a little bit of those Kyler things too, where he is he's listed 5'11". He was 5'9" coming out of high school, so apparently
he grew, man.
Apparently, he grew a couple of inches there late, but he doesn't really like to step up in the pocket. You can see that early. He had one where Bear almost got him for a safety down on like the 2 or the 3 yard line, where he wants to immediately bail out of the pocket rather than stepping up. And same on the interception to Kennedy, where he just can't drive that ball and can't see that guy because he's standing in there at 5'9". It was some of the similar stuff you saw with Dylan Gabriel in that Ohio State game last year when it felt like the pocket was collapsing around him. Then he really felt like a small quarterback all of a sudden.
Let's close the book here on what this means.
Yep.
11-1. They're in the playoffs. 5 or a 6 seed more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it speaks volumes to the level of coaching that this staff does, B, the recruiting that they've done, and C, the development they've done of those recruits they've brought in. Because think about how many guys this team has lost from that were important over the last couple seasons that were gone from this team going into the year. There were major questions on the offensive side of the football. There were major questions about the depth of this team. There were major questions about the receivers and the linebackers, and through it all, they're 11-1. They have one of the best offenses in the country. They have one of the best defenses in the country. We've seen that depth tested with multiple injuries. Guys are still out, and yet they're still playing like one of the best teams in college football. You go into the playoffs now where you don't have a championship game next week in Indy. That will be Ohio State versus Indiana. That will be a great game. But you have an opportunity to get yourself healthy. You have an opportunity to reset your system and start focusing in on your small areas that you need to improve upon. You'll find out your opponent here in a week, next Sunday, when the college football playoff field is announced. You will be in it if you're an Oregon fan. This is deemed a success. This 11-1, you're back into the college football playoffs. You need to win a game. You need to go into the playoffs now, start winning. But this has been one of the better years in Oregon football history, and it comes through a lot of turmoil on the field with who's available and who was not available.
We don't have any clarity from Dan on who could rejoin the team. I think he jokingly said all the receivers are healthy now, and then he said, "Oh, I don't know." And so, again, we don't know either. What I was told a couple weeks ago is that there was confidence that Moore and Bryant would play in December. The Evan Stewart thing continues to be kind of all over the place. I don't really have clear answers on that. I would imagine he's getting close based upon the timeline of the injury. Maybe not. But I think what I feel comfortable saying, and certainly what the vibe was down in that interview room afterwards, is this next 2.5 or so weeks are going to be really critical for getting this team healthy and for getting some of these guys back. And when that does take place, I think Malik Benson said it, Bryce Betcher said it, Dante said it, of just like, this team's really dangerous. And I totally agree. Having watched all the other teams that are going to be in this playoff field before, there's not a team here that they can't beat. I'm not saying that they will beat all these teams or that, that I guarantee they're going to make a really deep run, but I don't think there's any question watching just kind of what this looks like, missing some pieces, what this offense can look like. And I guess just the other thing I'll say on that topic, especially at receiver, I think even if they don't have all these guys back, they're still really dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that narrative of like, think about how great this offense is going to be back with these receivers. So co-sign. I agree. DeCorian Moore, Gary Bryant Jr., if Evan Stewart's available, those are absolutely difference makers for this offense. I also say, coming out of this game where you've got Malik Benson over 100 yards, the lights just went out in here, which is really cool.
Sets the mood.
Jeremiah McClellan is one, by the way, unbelievable catch.
That should have been a catch.
I think that's a catch.
Helmet catch.
If he catches that, he's also over 100 yards. Like the two outside guys that were available for this game played really, really well. And like I said, I think you're going to see some players return. That seems to be the expectation. Who knows? Maybe it won't play out that way, but you got about 3 weeks here now before the next game. This pass offense could be fantastic. And this rush offense, I know that's going to be a point of emphasis coming up of like, okay, what went wrong? How can we correct it? Can we get back to being what we've been? But this defense played like it's for real, like it's a national championship or college football playoff caliber defense, no question, in these big moments in the offense. I think same thing came together today. I just had one other thing. Do we want to talk about the cool shirts some of the guys are wearing?
Before we do, I just think that like you were saying earlier, it just goes into the point of this team has won in different ways. You won when the skill players were down. You won when the offensive line was down. You've continued to adapt, and I think that's going to really benefit them as they head into the playoff because they can match up with different teams and present them different looks. If you have to play a physical game, okay, we have Jamari Johnson, we have Kenyon Sadiq, and we can put a bunch of tight ends on the field and run the football and use them as our main pass weapons. And if you want to try to spread things out, guess what? Malik Benson's one of the fastest players in the country. So it's that ability to adapt that's going to really play dividends for them in the playoffs.
update from Kyle Rode, who sent in one of the prop updates of over under 8.5 middle birds I received at Husky Stadium. He said under cleared easy.
Okay. He had a fun time up here.
Sounds like Kyle was very
he's a good guy.
He was very polite. He was very studious. He wasn't talking a lot of shit, probably to Washington
the
fans.
fingers stayed they stayed fists. They were I just
you can't tease it and then not bring it up.
I just have to bring up, like, I saw it when they sat down. Bryce Betcher, Dylan Thieneman, and Dante Moore did interviews together.
Yep.
And Dylan and Bryce were wearing Caucasian Collision Unit T-shirts.
Exciting whites.
Well, and Dante Moore then very quickly goes, by the way, I don't have one. I'd like one.
I think for a couple of reasons he probably isn't deserving of one, but I will not the one to make that call. I just thought that was funny, and in a time where sometimes you get a little sterile in terms of the environment, to see those guys kind of have a funny tongue-in-cheek T-shirt that they were both wearing while sitting next to each other.
They say it was happenstance, but that was 100% coordinated.
Oh, yeah. They definitely were like, yo, are you bringing your T-shirt to UW?
And I'm not sure where those are available. Those are going to fly off the shelf here. And it's
some NIL paychecks.
Those are going to be some NIL paychecks for those two guys. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's going to do it for us here on the Autzen Audibles podcast, post-game edition. Thank you for all year listening to the show, submitting your questions, tuning into Erik, John, and myself this season. It's been a blast. It's not over yet. As Dan Lanning said, they are one of 12 teams that will be playing in the real postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said. I thought that was interesting. He kind of threw out we're playing in the one that matters, I think is exactly what he said.
He's not wrong.
12. They're one of 12 teams left on the field. You've got an opportunity, a path to winning a national championship. It would be Oregon's first. We'll cover it all on duckterritory.com. But until the next one, you've been listening to the Autzen Audibles podcast.
Talk to you later, folks.
See ya.